Did anyone else ever get a super bad reaction to putting in their 2 weeks? I just got notice that I'm being hired for a job that's around 10K more a year. Better benefits. Won't have to pay tolls, etc. My direct supervisor was cool about it. His supervisor had a freak out. She literally was like, "You were doing so well in your role. Now you're going to do this to us?" Quote. Then she kept being like, "Oh no, oh God, I don't know what I'm gonna do." It was so awkward that I ended up being like, "Well, thank you," and walking out of her office. Thinking back, I should have mentioned that her calling me out in front of the entire staff 2 months ago and denying me for a better position because I'm not good enough was exactly what caused this. Face with rolling eyes. You've inconvenienced her by leaving. That's her only takeaway about you leaving. You go and start your new job. Their staffing is not your problem. Not your case. But I am confused by posters here mentioning things similar to, "I gave my 2 weeks notice and employer got angry. What should I do?" And I mentally keep wondering why people forget that 2 weeks is a courtesy, not an obligation. If you are at an at-will employment contract, then you can say, "I am quitting. Bye," and that's it. 2 weeks notice is you being nice to your coworkers and/or supervisors. Not a must. Companies can literally fire you on the spot. Quitting is you firing yourself. Nothing more. Sounds like you're working for a company that's deliberately running on a skeleton crew so they can brag about record profits. Screw 'em. It seems like your immediate boss was okay at least. I put in my notice at one job. During the call my boss went silent, then said, "You never told me you were unhappy." I told him, "I literally tell you every 2 weeks in my one-on-one." He got quiet and ended the call. He then proceeded to refuse to speak to me for the next 2 weeks. I used to work as a cook in NYC and I was always a top performer and very fast learner. Every single job I quit. Never got fired in 5-year cooking. Had my manager mad at me for leaving. If y'all wanted me, you should have paid me more. The great thing about being a good cook in NYC is there's always someone you know who wants to poach you for the better. I had my boss call me while he was on vacation saying, "I don't like my cooks not reporting to me. And you should have told me about quitting." I'm like, "Well, you're not boss anymore and you're not even here for me to report to you." Had another boss who also changed his whole mood when I gave my 2 weeks notice and would micromanage me the last 2 weeks I had. He would give me a talk about how he can teach me so much but didn't want to pay me more. I was getting paid $17 per hour and jumped up to $25 per hour by simply jumping over to the new job. If they want you, they'll retain you. I'm not in that industry anymore and my role now is much more specialized. Millwork CAD drafter, CNC programmer. And negotiating is so much easier. Thinking back, I should have mentioned that her calling me out in front of the entire staff 2 months ago and denying me for a better position because I'm not good enough was exactly what caused this. Oh man. Yeah, you should have mentioned that. It's likely that in the next 2 weeks she may try to get you in her office to pressure you to stay. Or make you a counteroffer. Take that opportunity to tell her that you left directly because of her. You make me my money. Why would you do this to me? Did I not publicly humiliate you enough? Question mark. Well, thank you. That is the most perfect reaction to this situation I have ever heard. I was hired by my city for a great union job that doubled my pay. Notified my boss expecting him to be happy that a 21 years old caught an awesome break. Was told to leave the shop ASAP. If you were hit by a bus, they wouldn't close. If they decided you were too expensive, they'd replace you. Never be more loyal to your employer than they are to you. My old boss thought everyone who worked for her small business would retire from there. She hadn't given me a raise in 3 years. When I gave notice, I was in a fragile place in life. And as a people pleaser, I knew it was going to be hard for me. So I lied that the new job would pay me $10 more per hour so she wouldn't try to counter it. She asked me, "How could you do this?" And I cried and told her it was just the right opportunity for my family. That I hadn't been looking for a new job. My friend just knew the hiring people and thought I'd be a good fit. The next day she offered me an $8 raise, if things don't work out at the new job. I knew in that moment I could never trust her again. They only care about themselves, and we should do the same. I've only run into this once. I was working remotely for a job I hated, and put in my 2 weeks notice. I didn't get an "oh no" or anything. Literally just document everything you're working on and save any unfinished work to the company drive. That was it. My manager didn't talk to me at all at any time during those 2 weeks. I was removed from all meetings. The only person I heard from at all was HR, payroll, who was pissed off because they had to pay out over a month of PTO at once. You can bet I half-assed those documents and didn't even finish my work. Hated that place. But got paid out for them, so why not? I put in my 2 weeks and was immediately let go so I couldn't infect new employees with an attitude. Except they were profoundly short-staffed and I never had an attitude. I liked our new hires. Generally, good dudes. HR said, "What happened to the guy we hired a year ago?" And the answer was not, "You overworked him and his brain shattered," apparently. Yes. The day after I told my boss, she decided to double all my sales metrics and I had to meet them until I left. I ended up quitting the next day. I always told my management that my job was to deliver quality work. Your job was to pay me enough that I never needed to look elsewhere. Some people don't see other people as fully independent human beings. It sounds like this person is one of those people. She sees your choices and actions as all being done to her, and having nothing to do with your own agency as a person. This is a good time to remind everyone that 2 weeks' notice is a courtesy, not a requirement. It is a courtesy that few employers extend to their employees when letting them go. If your employer is discourteous when you give notice, you can change your resignation to effective immediately at any point. Good luck with the new job. Thinking back, I should have mentioned that her calling me out in front of the entire staff 2 months ago and denying me for a better position because I'm not good enough was exactly what caused this. Face with rolling eyes. Up. You still can. I couldn't stand the attitude, work environment. It was always busy. Grocery store checkout. And we never had enough people. I waited 2 weeks for them to hire more people, and when I noticed they weren't going to, I put in my 2 weeks. Went from 40 hours a week to only working 1 day a week for a total of 16 hours for 2 weeks. They cut my hours but never hired anyone to replace me. Don't want to hire more people but will gladly cut hours to make the person leaving miserable, and the employees left are going to suffer more. Odds are you were very good in your role, and they wanted to keep you in that role. Never give you more money or room to advance, and expected you to not only be okay with that, but to be appreciative of it. Fuck 'em. My boss quit shortly after promoting me to the position under him. His boss expected me to take over the responsibility of a staff of around 40. I said I'd need to be paid $1 per hour until they found a replacement. I got an email saying my request for additional compensation couldn't be approved because I was still in the probation period for the new job. The district would help cover the responsibility until they found a replacement. But this position was one where I lived on site and was constantly on call. No one from outside was going to be there at 2 a.m. to answer calls. They assumed since I lived on site I'd just have to deal with it. I responded by letting them know that I wasn't requesting extra compensation. I gave them the amount I'd require to do the work. Since they declined and I didn't see a way to move forward without being saddled with the work by default, I was quitting, and my response should be considered my 2 weeks' notice. I packaged up all the projects I was working, moved out of the on-site housing, and forwarded the emergency line to my former boss's boss. Management was pissed. All attempts at guilt trips were met with a demand for the original $buy per hour plus 50 cents more every time. They asked, so even when they agreed to my original request, it was no longer enough. It wasn't about the money at that point. FAFO.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.